We have several minutes to approve. The first is the June 22nd non-public work session minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review that? And
yep.
Motion.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
So Marianne made the motion, Neil seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, your vote, Marianne.
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
And Bill? Aye. Approved. Second is the June 22nd work session meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as written.
Thank you, Marianne.
You're welcome, Bill.
And Zach seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, Marianne, your vote.
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
And Bill? Aye. Ayes have it. And the third and final meeting minutes are the regular meeting minutes from June 22nd. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes of the June 22nd regular meeting.
Okay.
I second.
All right, Neil moves, Marianne seconds. Neil, your vote.
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Marianne?
Aye.
Bill? Aye. The select board will meet on the following dates. We'll have a regular meeting at 6 p.m. on Monday, June 27th, also August 10th and August 24th, 2020. We'll also have a public hearing during the regular meeting on Monday, June 27th, 2020 at 6:15 p.m. regarding revisions made to the street tree ordinance previously adopted in 1989. All work sessions prior to the regular meeting will start at 5 p.m. All of the above meetings will be held in the town hall unless otherwise posted, and citizens wishing to be listed on the select board's agenda should notify the town hall before 12 p.m. the Friday before the scheduled meeting. Correspondence. We have an alert from the Public Village Water and Sewer District on hydrant flushing. And where might that be? Oh, here we go. I found it. So as I'll briefly read it, but as part of our continued effort to maintain drinking water quality, Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District will be flushing the water distribution system during daytime hours the weeks of July 13th through August 7th. Please be aware that customers may experience discolored water at any time during the flushing period. The discolored water is caused by harmless sediment flushed from the main line and is safe for human consumption. Water users are reminded to check for discolored water prior to washing laundry. Fluctuations in pressure may be experienced during hydrant flushing. The PVWSD aims to minimize inconvenience to residents and businesses. If you have any questions, call the office at 536-1733. That's 536-1733. And also just remember the dates, July 13th through August 7th. There will be discolored water that you'll note. The New Hampshire Department of Transportation, bridge, sign, and support structure updates. We received this item from DOT on July 2nd. And it says New Hampshire Department of DOT announces that on Monday, July 6th, work to replace the 4 existing bridge mounted signs and support structures on the bridge carrying US 3 over New Hampshire 25 in Plymouth, New Hampshire will begin. I think we've noticed that. And how long will it take? I think we,
Till September. It says completion date, September of 2020.
okay. So just be aware that that's going on. So shoulders and travel lanes on New Hampshire 25 will need to be shifted or closed temporarily. So just note that. It's a 4-week deal. And it's part of this work is part of a statewide initiative to replace and update sign structures in Keene and Plymouth, New Hampshire. So we're special. Okay. And we have a Baker River Watershed report. And at this point, should I ask Lisa to discuss the report, or at least the outcome of it, or?
Yeah, sure. Happy to put my feedback in. So this is a monitoring that we do once a month in the summer. We target swimming areas along the Baker River, and we sample for E. coli and chloride just to keep track of the salt content going in. And usually at the end of the summer, the E. coli levels climb up a little bit so that we keep an eye on them. But this June, because of the drought, E. coli levels always increase when the groundwater is the primary supply of water to the river, as opposed to rain runoff and surface drainage. So not too surprisingly, many of the sites along the Baker River had slightly elevated E. coli levels, not elevated in the DES vision of what's dangerous, but elevated relative to what it normally is this time of year. I think it has to be about 10 times higher in order for DES to be terribly concerned about it. But it did, Plymouth was actually not as bad as Rumney, and there was a place in Wentworth that had high levels. So the entire stretch of river had some level of impairment for E. coli in June. We are due to take another sample next Monday, I think July 20 or so. And then it generally takes about a week for those results to come back. So, if there's huge concern, we can always resample. We can always sample more frequently, but then we just have to pay the cost of the additional samples.
Okay, Lisa. Any comments on the report?
Well, it should be a little bit different because you had a significant amount of rainfall since June.
Right.
Yep, we're hoping.
Any others? And Neil, just a reminder, we are going to be sampling tomorrow. It's the North Pemi. So hopefully we'll see you at 8 o'clock at the Descenso Bridge.
Okay.
Okay. And one of the things that we aren't doing this year, which is kind of disappointing actually, is DES is not accepting E. coli samples, which we also do during the summer. We'll still be doing chloride and maybe a couple of other chemical parameters that will be lab testing. Also, we do, pH and all the regular chemistry parameters as well. But I think it's kind of a shame that we aren't doing coliform. Well, actually, if we did it, at least we're coming in after a rain event. So, at least there's some flushing going on. But yeah, I don't know how many years in a row that we've been doing coliform testing, and now we've cut it out for this year. So it's unfortunate, but that's what we're doing.
In the note we got from BRWA, it sounds like they're talking about purchasing their own testing equipment. I wonder if once they do that, could work with them.
So that's still very much up in the air. It was something we talked about last winter, because I discovered that the instrument that they use down at DES was the same one that I was looking at on display. And I talked to the guy that ran the instrument, and it's pretty easy once you follow certain protocols for avoiding contamination of the samples. But it's like a $5,000 investment for the instrument, and then you have to pay for the cells that get filled, and then they get put into a basically gets it's kind of like seam sealing, like a seam sealer or a plasticizer that heat seals a seam. It basically locks in the E. coli into these little incubation chambers, and then they turn colors depending on the presence of E. coli. So it's not hard to use, and it's, I think, easily trainable. But what's been holding us off is primarily the fact that the most logical place to house this instrument is through a partnership with Plymouth State. And the most logical way to run that instrument is to have student interns. And we've had no students, since May or March. So we haven't done anything with that. But if E. coli continues to be kind of a ongoing and increasing problem, it may be worth doing, because we can run very rapid tests and get answers back within, I think, a day or two in an urgent situation. And it's much lower cost than running it down to the public labs there at DHHS. Those are $20 a sample at DHHS.
I don't suppose you'd like to partner with the Pemi River Local Advisory Committee to do their coliform testing?
We could do that.
Okay.
We could do that. We could talk to you about doing that.
Yep, we'll discuss.
Bill, I have a comment, if I may.
Sure.
Hi, sorry I'm late to the party. We did test the Pemi last Wednesday, as we do every summer. It's a swim test, which includes E. coli down by the courthouse. And we have not seen that result as yet, but I would expect it in the next day or two.
So when was that? Is it last Friday?
Last Wednesday,
It's Wednesday?
we took a sample to Concord, yes, as we do every July.
So that was pretty dry at that point, right? Was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
All right. Well, you can be certain that any coliform found would simply be because the baker just voided it. But
Right.
Or all the people up in
Blame the
Lincoln and
baker.
Woodstock.
Oh, what was that, Larry?
All the people up in Lincoln and Woodstock.
That's true.
There's a lot of people on the river now.
Yeah. Well, John Gallagher, this is kind of like digressing, but he's the vice chair of the PERLAC, Pemi River Local Advisory Committee, and he owns Ski Fanatics. And, they haven't been, very active because the river's been so bony as far as like offering trips, for groups in kayaks. So it's been kind of hitting their business as well. But
And interesting enough, now we have Livermore Falls open. The state Parks Department now has people manning the entrance, and the parking lot is open, and they're also maintaining the beach and what have you. So that's something that wasn't happening about a month ago. So at least now that is monitored.
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Phil Bryce but there was a few complaints, and Phil Bryce is very good about making sure something happens. And so we now have a couple of people that are manning the where they take the money in and watching over the parking lot and watching over the beach. So that problem should be somewhat ameliorated as of now.
very good. Thank you. Any other comments on that particular item?
I would just add, I guess, that on the Baker, places like in Wentworth where the values are normally below detection limit, the one site, Saunders Hill Bridge, that keeps coming up a little bit high, often has campers in that region. And so it could be that they are not being judicious in the way they empty their septic tanks on the camping RVs.
Okay.
So how many areas do you test?
We test 3 sites in each town. So Plymouth, 3 sites, Rumney, 3 sites, Wentworth, 3 sites, and Warren, 3 sites. So we have 12 data points in all. And usually the river is below detection in Warren and Wentworth. And then 30 or 40 per liter in Rumney, and then between 40 to 60 in Plymouth. That's normal. Last month, there was a number of sites that were above 100, except in Warren. Warren was still clean.
Certainly not close to the tenfold to raise
No,
concern.
no, it wasn't dangerous. DES wouldn't have done any more anyway than just say, you know, caution. And they wouldn't have closed anything until it got above, I think, 600 or 700. Yeah.
Lisa, Bill, if I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry if you've already answered this, but then why does DES post a limit of 88 for their designated beaches if they're not going to get concerned until it's 600? That's,
Well, it may be a difference between lake guidance and river guidance
I
and
got
what
you.
they think is a beach. I think DES probably thinks most beaches are on lakes.
Right, good point. Like Weir's Beach.
Yeah.
I got you.
So you might want to call them and ask what their guidance is for swimming spots in rivers. It might be higher, which
Yeah.
will cause a lot less fuss.
Yes, thank you. That's good. Good info.
Okay. Well, thank you, Lisa.
Mhm.
And Larry. And yeah, Kathy, maybe you can tell me, do we have any visitors or should we wait for,
We have Senator Guida here.
I don't see him. Is he,
He's front row. He's.
Bob, take my seat.
We did. I asked. We did set the podium up for him, but Brian switched with him. So
ah,
can you,
Guy likes to sit down, you know.
can you see him now?
yep, we see him. So Senator Guida, do you want to introduce yourself and discuss any concerns and questions pertaining to state government?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, select board. Pleasure to be here as always. As I'm sure you're well aware, things are far from normal. I try to focus in on financial impacts to the towns, 27 towns in the district. The latest that I have is that we can expect meals and rentals reimbursements to the communities to be as planned. However, as of last month, we were 50% short on road toll, on the gas tax, which is going to translate into an impact on the highway block grants. Don't know the size. I'm monitoring it with DRA and with safety. And so what I'll plan to do is each month, as we see what's happening, obviously there's been an increase now in tourism and restaurants are opening. So there's more mileage being driven, more gasoline being sold, more revenues being introduced. So keep an eye on that. Governor Sununu has instructed the departments to cut their budgets 20% for next year, to bring in a budget that shows 20% less spending than this year. I think that's just for planning purposes because we really have no idea where the money will be. At the end of this last fiscal year, as of June 30th, we were about $165 million short in the state revenues. It's a two-edged sword because the next budget for the next year started July 1. We had anticipated using some surpluses, we call them lapses, but you could call them surpluses from those departments to fund a fair amount of the operating budgets of each of the departments. Well, obviously, we're not only short in last year's revenues, we're now not having the lapses going forward. So that's going to be the double whammy. We're looking somewhere between estimates with DRA, $250 to $450 million shortfall in state revenues. That will obviously translate into services, reductions, potential reductions in force, and so forth. That to be obviously worked out as we proceed down the road towards crafting the next biennial budget. COVID obviously has had a dramatic impact. As you know, there are numbers of programs that have been brought forth to help businesses and families, rent relief, mortgage relief, number of business programs that are designed to help basically bridge the gap in the absence of revenues. I mean, we stopped the revenues to a lot of our businesses cold. Not many businesses can survive that going forward. So a number of programs have been brought forth through the CARES Act and through the Gopher Committee. I serve on the reopening task force, and we don't deal with the money, we deal with the guidelines. And so we've been very, very busy and spent about 6 weeks, 5 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day in conference calls with various industry groups helping codify the guidelines that they put together because they're the experts in how their businesses run. So we've got quite an extensive list. There's an ongoing, I wouldn't call it raging, but I would certainly call it a vigorous debate amongst our citizens as to should we stay closed, should we be more restrictive, or should we open up fully? And so that's a decision that's up to Health and Human Services, public health sector, and also the governor. The reopening task force is pretty much in a maintenance capacity right now. No new guidelines coming out. Taylor Caswell, the commissioner of BEA, is consolidating guidelines into a more readable, user-friendly series of documents so that businesses and individuals can more easily ascertain what those guidelines may be. I had the interesting experience of taking on the regathering of religious groups, and we invited Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, Catholic, evangelicals, all these groups together, and no one wanted to take that on, so I did. And it took us 10 days. We crafted a set of guidelines that are now in force in all of the forms of worship in our state. We stay in communications. I keep in contact with that group of 10 so that if there's any concerns that they bring up, we can act on them. We don't work through the opening task force. There was some concern constitutionally about subordination of church to state. And I made the point that churches, in terms of structures and in terms of public health and public safety, are in fact, subordinate to state law. But we segregated it from reopening and just went directly to HHS and to the governor for that particular group. It worked out very well. Not an awful lot more to report. I'm here to answer questions equally. So if there are any, I'd be happy to do so.
I have a question. Senator Giuda, do you expect that the governor will sign the PFAS bill?
The PFAS bill, I would expect him to sign. Now, one of the problems we have is that because the House did not choose to change its deadlines and therefore did not act, it was incumbent on the Senate, if anything was going to get done, to take bills that had passed the House and come to the Senate and to attach to those bills multiple amendments, none of them germane to the main topic of the bill, but carrying all of the bills that had passed the Senate so that the House could have a chance to consider them. Now, they couldn't vote on them in terms of dividing questions and taking particular amendments out. They couldn't actually deliberate on them. All they could do, because of their own refusal to change their deadlines, was to concur or non-concur with what the Senate has proposed. So some of those in all those packages, there are things that I think the governor might find objectionable. There are things that we think are necessary. And so, I will tell you that we are in communications with the governor. There are things that need to get passed for the state and for our communities to benefit and continue to work as best we can under the COVID restrictions. So I wish I had a better answer, but yes, I will tell you that the PFAS was strongly supported by myself and others. Those limitations are critical to people's health, and I think we'll see, again, a push to have that passed into law.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, Senator Giuda.
You're welcome, Bill, and thank you for the time.
No problem. Okay, we've got any other visitors?
No, but you have an appointment.
Yeah, what? No, I didn't see the appointment's here, but I didn't see it on the agenda. But that's okay.
On the very top of page 2.
Oh,
At the bottom of
who
page
said that?
2. Under correspondence.
All right. So we have an appointment to do. Thank you, Ann. We had a letter from Norm LeBlanc, and I'll try to speed through this. But Lisa Donor, this was to Lisa Donor, Chairman of the Conservation Commission. Dear Lisa and Conservation Commission members, my name is Norman LeBlanc, and I currently reside at Texas Hill Road in Plymouth. I would like to serve as a volunteer on the Plymouth Conservation Commission. I'm a retired educator, having taught in Plymouth High School for 37 years and was coach of the Plymouth High School ski team for over 40 years. The family currently operates LeBlanc's Christmas Tree Farm, and as we have for the past 45 years. I and my family spend all of our time outdoors, whether skiing, hiking, bicycling, or just enjoying the view. I absolutely love the Plymouth area. My wife and I have raised 2 sons, one of whom is currently a teacher at Plymouth High School. Our family has camped and traveled extensively through the United States, and I find that Plymouth area to be the most beautiful spot in the country. I feel it's important to preserve our forests, our fields for future generations to enjoy, and I look forward to doing my part to ensure that our conservation lands are be preserved and enjoyed. I have prior committee experience in the community as a member of the Park and Recreation Commission, the Plymouth Cable Commission, and served as chairman of the ski committee for the New Hampshire Interscholastic Athletic Association for over 30 years. I also built the first ski jump for Plymouth High School in 1980 and chaired the committee to rebuild the new jump in 2015 at no cost to the Plymouth community. I look forward to serving. Sincerely, Norm LeBlanc. I'm not even certain what the Plymouth Cable Commission was or is no longer, but that was interesting.
You want a motion?
What's that? Yeah, I want a
You want
motion.
a motion?
Yes,
We
please.
need
Neil.
more people like Norm LeBlanc. I moved that we endorse his appointment.
Thanks, Neil. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so Neil moves, Zach seconds. Neil, any discussion? Seeing none, Neil, your vote?
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Marianne,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Bill, aye. Congratulations, Norm and Lisa. Okay, new purchase orders. Police Chief Lefebvre.
Hi. So what you have before you is a purchase order for a new radio system. This is what was voted on as one of my items for the bond. And I have 2 other quotes. The one before you is from Allcom, and that one is for $323,230.17. The other 2 were Osby Mountain Electronics, who is our current vendor. They were about $200,000 higher than that for the same stuff, and also Eastern Communications, they're about $133,000 higher as well. And I mentioned this at the last board meeting. The Allcom company also services currently right now Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid, their dispatch center. So they were able to get some cost sharing involved in that, which is obviously reduce the cost and is going to get better communications for our dispatch center. So it's my recommendation that we go with the Allcom company, the one you have before you in the purchase order there.
So Steve, that shared, is that the reason why the huge price gap?
I'm not quite sure exactly the answer to that. There is some of that, yes. I don't think there's $200,000 worth of that. Yes, there is some, but I don't think it's significant. And like I said, this Allcom company comes very highly. I'm actually excited that they came in the lowest because that come highly recommended by some very reputable dispatch centers, including Tilton PD. They're building a new PD, and they've secured Allcom to do their dispatch center there as well.
And Steve, you didn't mention, but this is to be paid from the bond approved at the March town meeting.
Correct. I started to say that, and then I got sidetracked. I apologize. The other part of that is the grant that Jules was talking about during the work session. This would be part of that as well.
Okay. Any other discussion before we have a motion?
Does the timing on our signature or approval on this affect the grant that Jules was mentioning, or is it just when we actually get invoiced for the expense?
For invoiced only, that's what we're working on.
Yeah, and the reason we're doing this in this way is because it's going to take about 2 months. Once they order the equipment, it's going to take them 2 months, and we really want to get on their schedule because they are in high demand right now.
Steve, any interruption of current service during this upgrade?
They told us they can do it in such a way where it will be seamless. They'll build their system for us, and it's just a matter of when they switch it over. It'll be a minute or two, and we'll be done with this. There should be almost no interruption in service whatsoever.
Steve, what's the expected life cycle of a system like this?
Oh God, the one we have now, if I had to guess, 15, 16 years old. So, and I don't know with this is newer technology, and to let you know kind of what this, a lot of it is computer based now. So like with anything else, a computer only has a certain, obviously, life cycle, but you're talking about the actual, some of the components of it, and not rebuilding a whole system after 15 years. And the other thing is, part of this is going to be a maintenance cost saving too, because in the phone project that you guys voted for me at the last meeting, are including in our new phone system is dedicated fiber optic lines to each one of our towers, so they can remote in and fix problems remotely rather than having to hike out to these antenna sites and log into them then and fix it. So it's going to be a lot cheaper to maintain as well.
It also looks like you're about $26,000 under your estimate from the bond, which is nice.
Correct.
All right. How about a motion?
Make a
I
motion.
move that we
the
approve
purchase
this.
order.
Oh, you want to do it, John?
Yes, for the new dispatch system with Comm Technologies for $323,230.17.
Is there a second? Okay. John moves. Neil seconds. Any further discussion? I don't know why they had to put 17 cents on there, but anyway. So therefore, Neil, what's your vote?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Mary Ann?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Bill? Aye. Ayes have it. Congratulations, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is a much needed improvement.
And briefly, I guess, just briefly to talk about the fact that the university is still going to be utilizing our dispatch at least for another year, and then some, maybe. No, actually for a year. So I guess we still have kind of a guaranteed customer.
So they compensate us for that?
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Everybody who uses the dispatch center pays a percentage of their usage. It's based on how much they use. You use a little bit, then you pay a little bit. You use a lot, and you pay a lot. We ourselves, the town of Plymouth, probably uses, I would say, almost half of that amount of money to run the dispatch center because we're extremely busy.
That's a good thing. All right, thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
All right, next, Tom Morrison, Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid Communication Service Renewal.
Hi, this is the annual payment to Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid, which provides our communications as well as other services that we outlined in the letter to you. We have access to the Central New Hampshire Hazmat team as part of that payment. That did go up 5% from last year based on a radio upgrade that they have completed or are about to complete on their system, which was provided by Allcom, as Chief Lefebvre spoke about, a highly respected company. And so that was the reason for the increase in that from last year. But that's for the calendar year 2020 for our dispatch services through Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid, who we're very happy with. And we've looked at other alternatives, and for that money, you can't hire one communication specialist. So I recommend that we submit payment for that invoice.
Okay. So that's the 54,953. What about the, are we going to do two in one shot, or is just the?
It's up to you. On the truck rehab, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you need to do that separately or.
Okay, well, let's address this one first. So,
Okay.
The Lakes Region Fire Communication Service. Is there a motion?
I move to accept the purchase order for Lakes Region Fire Communication Service.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Zach moves, Neil seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none. Neil, your vote?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Marianne?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Bill? Aye. Thanks, Tommy. You want to do the next one? Thank you.
So the second one is, do you want to do that now?
Yeah, please.
So that's a corrosion repair for our engine 3 that was planned in the budget. And as you will see, the estimate was, I don't have it in front of me, I'm actually on vacation, but the estimate was for 6,000 and change, I think. But they know that once they get in there, they're likely to run into some other repair work. So we had budgeted for 10,000. That's what the purchase order is for. And that's what we're looking for approval for. Because once they open up those fenders, we've been told they're likely to encounter other corrosion, and it makes sense to fix it while they're in the business. So that's why we had estimated it at 10, and that's what we budgeted for.
Okay.
Where's the work being done?
Where is it being done? So it's the rear compartment. And
No, I meant, has it gone out to bid? Or
no, there's really not a lot of, I mean, that's the only place I know of that will do body repair on fire engines.
where is that?
It's in Tamworth, Neil, Lakes Region Fire Apparatus.
Okay.
And they actually they used to sub out their paint work. They would prep the vehicle and then sub it out to a paint shop. They just bought the paint shop so that it's all under one roof now, if you will. We've been doing business with them for decades and are very pleased with their work. I would trust them, particularly in this case, to do the best thing. And if they can fix it for the quote, they will. They're not going to go any further.
So Tom, you feel comfortable going at 10 as opposed to the approving of 6? Sort of a 35% increase.
Yeah, I'm hoping obviously that it comes in less than that, but they just won't know until they open up those fenders and what they're going to get into. But it's not something that you want to wait on either, because that corrosion obviously is just going to get worse.
Okay.
I have a couple quick questions.
Go for it.
How much longer are we expected to keep engine 3 in service? It's a 2003.
Well, we are hoping to get 25 years out of that truck.
So
So,
hopefully another 8 years or so.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
The other question I had is, how long will it be out of service while they're doing the work?
I'm going to say about a week to 10 days.
And
These vehicles were also not undercoated, which is something that we're going to spec, the next time we buy a new apparatus. I think it's worth doing in this part of the country. We're seeing a lot of corrosion on something that's, not terribly old. Engine 2 is 33 years old and it's still in service.
Huh?
Okay. So is there a motion?
I make a motion, we accept the quote for 10,000.
All right, is there a
Second.
second? So Mary Ann moves, Neil seconds. Any discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none, John, your vote.
Yes.
Neil,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Mary Ann,
Aye.
Bill, aye. Very good. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you all.
You can get back to your vacation now.
Okay.
See you tomorrow, Tom.
Okay.
Next, we have Joe Fagnant to bring us a couple of items. Joe, you want to take it?
So I have a purchase order. We did the bid process and we decided to go with the 2020 Volvo, a wheel loader. The one that we tried them all out. We actually had them bring them to our shop and we tried all the machines. And there was another vendor that we actually liked better, but it was $50,000 more. And so we had given it a lot of thought, and we just couldn't justify that extra 50,000. So we went with this one, which will be adequate. But so yeah, that's where we're at. And they gave us a generous amount for a trade-in for our 1982 Fiat loader. So
That's
we
pretty
did
good.
well. We did well.
Very good. Any discussion before we go to discussion, or? Well, in that case, entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve this purchase of the 2020 Volvo L60H Wheel Loader from Chadwick-Baross for $194,100.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Neil moves, Zach
Aye.
seconds. What's that?
Oh, do you want to vote now?
No,
Or do you
no,
wanna
no.
discuss it?
Any discussion? Thank you, Neil, for pointing that out. Any discussion? Zach? Usually compare it with,
I was hesitant because he's under, but you got budgeted in the proposal 195, and this is 194, 100. So after the trade-in, so again, nice job coming in, just barely under budget. That's good work.
Yeah, my foreman put a lot of work. He works with me on this stuff, and so I give him a lot of credit for working with me. He did well.
great. Any further discussion? Seeing none? Neil, your vote.
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Mary Ann?
Aye.
Bill? Aye. Thank you, Joe, for that one.
It's raining at my house and the sun's shining.
Well, I heard like a storm warning coming in from the background, so some bad weather around someplace. So Joe, you've got one more item?
Yeah, Bellmore Septic and Sewer and Drain. So it's time to clean out our catch basins again. And we have just about 500 catch basins to do. That's what we have tallied up for the town. And we used to do about half of them, and then slowly we got away from that. Our budget got cut back, and so last year we did roughly 100 basins. And what I'm finding that when we only do that amount is we go backwards because they fill up and then they plug up, and we had to actually hire the same company to come in and flush them out, ones that wouldn't work. So there's no advantage to cutting corners there. So in my budget, the one that I'm right now, I put in for 250 basins, and it should bring me back to a better place this year. Yeah. So, and they went up slightly from I think it was 35 to 39.50. So I still have enough money appropriated to do 250 basins.
Okay. I noticed in their pricing, it looks like, see, it's $39.50 per basin or $150 per hour.
Right. So we do it by the basin.
Yeah.
Not every town does it, but we go around and we have a priority list, and then we check them. There's a way of checking to see how much is in each one. So we have a system, and this works better than by the hour.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve this item of catch basin cleaning for $9,875.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Neil moves, Marianne seconds. Is there any discussion?
Joe, just a,
No, go ahead, please.
Joe, when you have to call them back like you did last year, what's the cost? Roughly per
What's
basin.
the cost? It's by the hour. So however long it takes to unclog it, it could be, they're going to charge me a minimum of 1 hour.
Okay.
But it might take 10 minutes or it might take an hour and a half. It depends. South Main Street, believe it or not, half of that system doesn't work. And so it's a blessing that we're moving forward to try to do something with that drainage, because there's a lot of areas of town that my drainage has failed. So there's no advantage to, I need to keep this in order to open up as many as I can every year. So my systems don't keep failing.
Sure. Sounds like it would cost you triple the amount. Cost you triple the amount last year?
No. I mean, we only did 100 basins, but we had to call them back, and we probably spent another $1,500 to $2,000.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was yeah, we ended up spending a fair amount again.
I'd like to make a comment. When catch basins become overloaded, the debris starts going down the pipe, and the debris can get caught in the pipe, and then you get a clog. And then around here, when it's 20 below zero, that clog can lead to a freeze up. And then you're jackhammering the road in the middle of the winter.
Like comment here. All right. So we've had, it was Neil moved, Marianne seconded. Neil, your vote.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Marianne.
Aye.
Zach.
Aye.
Bill. Aye. Ayes have it. Thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, now Neil, it's pouring at my house, so. All right, so, yeah, Lisa, Larry, and I guess Rebecca, thanks for staying put for the meeting, but you're up. Discuss South Beach and other properties in the Oxbow region of the Pemi.
Can I have 1 minute for something?
Yeah.
Okay, I've talked with Neil before. We went to a couple meetings and I talked to Neil about this. The sidewalk stops at the Burger King and you now have Whole Foods and the bank and McDonald's and what have you. What are the chances of getting the sidewalk continued on from the Burger King out to that intersection?
It's likely. Actually, I can ask Brian to comment on that.
Yeah,
Maybe
like,
not. Oh,
I concur. I mean, that's something that had been raised years ago. It would require restriping the intersection and doing some tinkering with the signalization process at Highland and Tenny Mountain Highway. But the system was set up for upgrade, so there's no issue with that there. We've looked at it on a number of different grant opportunities that have always failed. You know, it's when we had a shot at it, or a better shot, it was undeveloped at that point. So because of the looming changes, it was never pursued. Now, at this point, it seems to be set, at least as far as that signal is concerned. So now would be the time to go ahead on it. I know that we had spoken to the town engineer and everybody else, but that was something, it's been a back burner project while we were pursuing things that were of greater significance or that had already made it onto the 10-year plan. So,
okay, thank you. I just want to keep reminding.
Answer, I'm sorry, Larry, but you know, we're aware of it very much, but you know, it was always too soon before, and now it's time.
Too late.
Brian, do you have any recollection for the ballpark cost when we were putting that forth in the past?
I don't even think we put a number on that, Zach, to be honest with you, because it was just purely conceptual, and you know, it's pretty easy to figure where it's going to go when you leave the Hannaford parking lot. But the question was always, once you pass the water and sewer pump station, what becomes of the sidewalk? I mean, as far as, you know, how it's going to make a turn, what kind of enunciators you would need at the intersection, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. There's also the question of where is going to be the preferred pedestrian side for Tenny Mountain Highway, because that would always come in too. It appears to be on the north side of the highway at this point, at least as far as the patterns of development. So, you know, rather than spend money 3 times, you know, get it right the first time on this. And it looks like that particular intersection is not going to change at all other than intervals of the lights.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thanks, Brian. Lisa.
Yes, so I want to thank Melanie Luce and Larry Spencer for joining. And I wanted to bring to the select board into the discussion. I wanted to bring the select board into the discussion that we've been having around a grant proposal to acquire the rights to put in basically a bicycle park and conservation land across the river in the area known as the Oxbows. And the discussion has progressed to the point where, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to shut off my other phone a second.
How about those Patriots? Huh?
I heard that the guy's playing the organ every night or something like that, huh?
Oh, yeah?
That's what I heard. For the ball team, not for the Patriots, for the
Okay, yeah. Socks.
I'm sorry, I have a antiquated answering machine, and even though you turn the ringer off, it still rings. And it usually takes me like 2 minutes to figure out how to make it shut up. So I couldn't just unplug it because that's actually my internet connection too. So, so where was I? Yeah, so we have an opportunity to put in a proposal for what's basically $800,000 worth of value for acquisition of land and development of a hiking, biking, recreation area in what's now a very unmanaged wilderness land on the floodplain across from Plymouth. It's mostly holderness land. And so Larry Spencer has been working as a representative of Holderness. Melanie Luce is here as a representative of the White Mountain Trails Collective, who's our grants partner on this, and also the project partner if we get the grant. So maybe Melanie, would you like to step in and describe what the grant is all about, and then Larry can talk about the negotiations of land ownership and stuff.
Sure,
Bring us back around to why Plymouth is here.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. So I am the executive director of the White Mountain Trail Collective. We are a nonprofit organization that partners with other organizations to rebuild, repair, or build trail systems. And just a quick background on what we've done. We put in 2 years worth of work rebuilding Crawford Path, which is our oldest maintained hiking trail in our country. It turned 200 years old last year in 2019. So we did a big restoration there. We also worked with botanists and environmentalists, not only to protect some wildlife habitat, but some also fragile alpine vegetation. So moving hikers and users away from that vegetation. Over those 2 years, we put in over 15,000 hours of trail work with crews and other partners. And we funded both years of that project. This year, we are working on 4 different projects. Our 2 big projects are, our first one is Glen Ellis Falls, which we are rebuilding. Glen Ellis Falls, we are doing it to the historical integrity of the Civilian Conservation Corps that originally built that trail. If you send people to Glen Ellis Falls, just a side note, they're going to be sad because the trail is closed while we're working on it for the next 10 weeks. It started today and it's closed through September 20th. So have people go to Saturday or another falls if they're looking for a falls experience, because they're going to be sad if they get to Glen Ellis. So that's one of our projects. And the other project that's our larger scale project that we're doing is that we are working with partners to rebuild climbing access at Cathedral Ledge. And then we have some mountain bike trails we're putting in with some other partners in North Conway, and we'll be in North Conway for another year. So 2020 and 2021 are our North Conway projects. And then 2023 and 24, we are going to be doing projects in this area in the Pemi Valley. So we haven't yet really worked with the municipality, but our partners, the state of New Hampshire, called me and asked me if there was a town or a conservation commission or someone that we might be looking to partner with to do a project. And basically the idea was because there was LWCF funds, so the Land Water Conservation Act funding available. And they were hoping that with our organization, we could help towns develop or repair or expand outdoor recreation availability in their town. And that grant is a 50-50 match. So 50% of the grant that you get from LWCF has to be matched, and that's where we will come in. Not only am I helping to write the grant and go through the process with Larry and Lisa, but also we would project manage and we would provide that 50% match funding to the project. The project LWCF funds can be used for acquisition and development. They can be used for one alone or both. We would be looking at both. So we'd be looking at, and I'll let Larry talk about the land more because he knows that acquisition piece better than I do. But we'll be looking at acquiring some land and then further developing that land with trails, multi-user trails for outdoor recreation. Did I miss anything? If you have any questions, I talk fast. I apologize. I got yelled at by a reporter yesterday for talking too fast. So just tell me to repeat myself or slow down. It does not offend me.
Okay, so in terms of ownership, if you've been on Holderness Road, there are 3 properties that are adjacent to Holderness Road. One is the old golf course shooting range that's owned by Irving. The next one is a parcel that goes actually to the road, but goes back by a road and back into the oxbow area itself. That's owned by Holderness School. And then the third parcel is owned by Plymouth State University. We've talked to Irving people. They are not interested in doing anything in terms of an easement or anything like that, but they're also not going to be able to develop it because it's in a flood hazard zone. So it will be stayed the way it is right now. I have talked to Phil Peck, who's at Holderness School, and they're very happy to work with us, either if we could purchase their property or through an easement or what have you. So there is a possible match if they assess it for a high value and sell it for a lower value. We can use that for a match. I just got off the Zoom with Don Burks the other day just to keep them informed. The area that we're talking about with respect to PSU is now a rugby field. And in the wintertime, it's used by the snowmobilers that go across it to connect up from Milt Huckins Old Fields to the bridge in Plymouth. And our suggestion there is, of course, for the college to give us maybe 10 spaces and the ability to put up a board that would direct people to the area behind that. Once you leave those 3 properties, Holderness Conservation Commission owns a 2.5-acre property at the south end of South River Street that's adjacent to the Holderness School property. So if we did pick up the Holderness School property, that would be a much larger conservation property. And then we get into a complexity because then we get into Plymouth. And there are 2 property owners in Plymouth. One includes D&M and another property owner. And then once you get past the Oxbow, and if you've been out that way where you cross over the snowmobile bridge that goes over the slough, you're back into Holderness, and that's a property that's owned by White Mountain Country Club. And we've talked to that gentleman about purchasing that particular property. He has a very high assessment on it at this point, but I'm sure that we could get a lower assessment. And then after that, that part of that property is not only in Holderness, but part of the property is actually in Ashland, and we haven't really talked to anybody in Ashland. So it makes it a little bit more complex because part of the development is in Holderness, and the middle of the development is in Plymouth. And I don't know if Steve is still listening in, but Chris Buckley and I talked with Steve, Jake Partridge, and the PSU police chief, probably about a year ago, about management problems associated with that inner part of the property, because that part of the property has what's called either Secret Beach or South Beach. And this is where we get the most usage of the property, particularly in the summertime, for people that come and swim and leave their garbage behind. So the commission has been picking up that garbage for many, many years. And we've also had a joint trip with Lisa and some of the other members of the Plymouth Conservation Commission to go out and see firsthand what's going on. So that's in terms of ownership. So I'll turn it back to Lisa in terms of some of the things that we might be proposing.
Okay, so what's really at issue for the town of Plymouth to consider is whether or not it wants to be a partner in the grant. The state of New Hampshire has, we put in a pre-proposal, a concept proposal, and that was with me from the Plymouth Conservation Commission, with Larry from the Holderness Conservation Commission, and with Melanie Luce from the White Mountain Trail Collective. And so based on that, and based on a walkthrough with the state representative, we received an invitation to submit a full proposal. And in that full proposal, though, we really have to iron out who are going to be the partners on the grant. And they want to have a pretty clear idea as to who will be the owners of the property that the state is funding to turn into recreation land. And because the oxbow wetland area and South Beach is part of Plymouth. The option is for Plymouth to let Holderness and the White Mountain Trail Collective be the partners in developing this grant and in managing it and just making the decisions, acquiring the land. Or does Plymouth want to maintain basically control of some of the land that's in the town of Plymouth? And it's mostly, I think, an issue because of the use of the South Beach as a potentially attractive recreation area, but also a problematic recreation area. And so I just wanted to open that up for discussion because it was made very clear that when we do submit the grant proposal, they're going to want to know, are they dealing with two municipalities that are in good agreement about how this is going to be managed, or are they just going to be dealing with one municipality who's going to try to acquire land from the different landowners?
I should also note that, and you probably have seen this yourselves, there is no way, well, I shouldn't say that, we've almost made it impossible for anybody in a regular vehicle to get to South Beach. That's because we've worked with Holderness School, we put rocks, we put boundaries, we've worked with the Irving station, we have the cement barriers behind the station, and we used to have a real problem with people taking their vehicles back there, and that's why the roads are in such bad shape and what have you, they go back there. That problem hopefully has been solved, although somehow people still get back there in their vehicles. But that's one of the things that it becomes a problem, because Jake used to give people tickets when they came out of Holderness. But if the vehicle was back in the middle of the oxbow, that meant that Steve would have to go back there and give the person a ticket in the middle of the oxbow, because that's part of Plymouth. So you can actually blame the river for doing this complexity, because if the river hadn't cut itself off, you know, the river would be still going in the oxbow, but the river cut itself off in the late 1800s. So now Plymouth is in the middle of Holderness.
So
Lisa,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Paul, go ahead.
No, I see that Chief Lefebvre is still on. I'm certain he would be terribly disappointed if we were to give up South Beach.
They can have it every bit of it.
Well, I can remember talking with you, Steve, when Chris Buckley and I had a meeting with you, you know, that you really can't get there because you have to get Jake to let you get through the, you know, get to the people there. So, and
Yep.
Jake, so it's always been a problem that way. And
Yeah.
we were doing pretty well. Actually, before Memorial Day, the beach was totally clean. And then Memorial Day came along, and I think people took out 5 big bags of garbage. I haven't been back there since the 4th of July, but I assume that we're back to the same state that we were before, you know, after Memorial Day.
Yeah, and part of the issue is, it's my understanding that the beach itself is privately owned by the Ashland Golf Course, although
Well,
it is in Plymouth, but it is owned by them. And I've had that discussion, and they don't want to restrict anybody's usage of that area.
yeah, I'd have some questions on that, Steve, because I think the slough actually is the southern line for Plymouth, which would put the beach in Plymouth. And I don't think Ashland.
It is absolutely in Plymouth. It is,
Yeah,
but the
but I
golf
think-
course in Ashland owns that particular piece.
Well, I think their property line stops at the slough. I'm not sure. I'd have to check that. So if you look at the Holderness assessment maps.
Brian, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think you and I looked at that a couple years ago
Mhm.
on the maps, and I'm pretty sure we determined it was definitely in Plymouth.
Yeah, absolutely. The beach itself is. I mean, it's fairly clear on the map.
But I'm pretty sure the Ashland guy stops at the slough.
Yeah, there's 2 different parcels of land on that side of the river.
Right.
There's the one that's owned by Lakes Region Golf Courses, and then
The other is owned by D&M Park.
the other one is owned, yeah, exactly.
Are you looking at it right now, Zach?
I'm looking
I
at the
have
tax
an
map right
image.
now.
If you guys will let me share the screen, I can show it.
Who is the?
Yeah, or I could, either way.
Go ahead, Lisa.
but I'm not the one that's sharing the screen.
Your rain has come to my house now.
Yeah, it's still here.
It's still there.
No
Now it's,
thunder and lightning, so.
it's extended over to my house in Holderness.
So right now, Pemi Baker TV is the screen. Not
Yeah,
me.
I think you want to return to the meeting.
Andrew.
You're sharing the, yeah.
Oh, the air has suddenly become 10 degrees cooler. That's nice.
Okay, all right, here we go. All right, so this is from the Plymouth tax maps, and the wetland area, the oxbows themselves are one owner, and that is the Plymouth Athletic Club, and that's 56 acres of almost all water. And then the one that actually has contact with the Pemi River is the Lakes Region Golf Courses.
Okay, so
And that's 36 acres. And so this is the property that we're talking about right now as being potentially owned by the town of Holderness. If the town of Plymouth doesn't want to maintain participation in the grant and become the owner or buy up those properties basically and turn them into conservation.
Bill, I think we should sell it for $1 to Holderness. They can have it.
You might think you're being facetious, but I don't see why that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Well, it yields all of $24 a year in taxes, Bill. So, you know.
All right,
It's important.
$25 then.
I can guarantee it costs Steve more than that in trying to enforce any law
Absolutely.
outside of
Yes.
the river.
Well,
May I ask, is ownership, is it something that we must do? I mean, could a private, state ownership remain the same it was? Could there still be a conservation overlay on this and have it that way? Or does it need to actually be deeded to an entity first?
So what we heard, I can't remember his last name, Melanie. Steve, was that his first name?
That came and walked with us?
Yes.
Eric Feldbaum.
Eric Feldbaum. Okay, so what he explained is that in making decisions as to who's going to receive the grant funds, they look at the complexity of the management of it, and the fewer owners they have, the happier they are.
Mhm.
And so
Well-
he said outright ownership is much easier than an overlay, but it's not out of the question.
Okay.
It has to be really clear. Everybody has to be really clear that they know what the partnership is and who is going to be responsible in perpetuity for managing this recreation area.
Right, so it would be better with the municipality or an easement holder or a manager type than like we were doing with the Buckley Preserve.
probably so, yeah. If you want to share the screen with me, I can show you from the Holderness view. So can you share the screen with me?
Yeah, either Andrew or Jules, if she's still around.
Andrew's here. You lost control. Okay.
Larry, you should be all set now.
Okay, so you should be seeing my screen. This is the assessment maps for Holderness.
Not yet.
Not yet. I don't know if I have to do anything or not.
Yeah.
You have to say okay or something.
Let's see.
Should be able
Share
to.
screen. Okay.
It gets clouded. We don't want
All right, you started. Yep.
Okay, so now you can see the three parcels I'm talking about. The I is on the Irving gas station. But this parcel right here that goes all the way out to the road and comes back this way is a Holderness school parcel. This is the PSU parcel, and then this is the Pemi Riverside Park, which is owned by Holderness Conservation Commission. And then you can see, we're in. And then we get into down here, this parcel is owned by Lakes Region Country Club, or, so I guess they own this parcel and then this parcel right here, and then D&M owns this parcel right here. So that gives you an idea. And as I say, this parcel from the lakes, the golf course, goes over into Ashland right about this point right here. And the road that comes back here, this is where you cross over the slough right here. Go into, these are open fields. And the snowmobile usually comes like this in the wintertime and comes across here and then comes up this way. So
would the easement extend into Ashland by those other oxbows, or is it pretty much just from the?
Well, technically it could.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering what the scope of the proposal was on the table.
We haven't, that's the thing, we're still going to have to work on that, determine how much money it's going to cost and what have you that way. So, I mean, those are things that we'll be working on in September, when we'll begin to work on the details of the grant.
The bulk of the money for the grant itself is to acquire the land, or acquire the use of the land, and then to actually establish the trails and deal with management issues of it.
Are those trails intended to go out, form a trail system and come back, or is the plan for them to connect into the North Ashland Road or somewhere?
Well, there's already connections, Zach, into North Ashland Road, because that's what the snowmobilers use during the winter time. We're not thinking of that as what do you want to call it, an official entry point during the summertime. Mm-hmm. In the summertime, we're thinking that there would be 2 points that they would get there by. One would be possibly going between the Irving station and the Cisco station, which would have a small parking lot, and then they would take that road that goes between the two properties there. And the main one would be going in from the South River Street in Holderness, where we actually have the 2.5 acre parcel. There is another parcel that's adjacent to our parcel just to the north that was a house that's now a lawn. And it might be an idea, because one of the things that they asked for in the grant is to make sure there's enough public parking. And it might be possible to purchase that piece of property as more of as a parking lot. Right now we have an agreement with the New England Mountain Bike Club, and because we've put up a kiosk that shows the bike trails and what have you. And what they do is they suggest that people park over at Fox Park and then ride their bikes over, because we literally only have about 3 parking spaces at the south end of South River Street. So, a lot of people, before they put up the barriers at the ice skating rink, a lot of people used to go back to the back part of that parking lot and then walk their dogs from where the rugby field is back along the road. Now more of them are going down to South Main Street and walking their dogs from that point. I mean, I guess in 1890, Plymouth could have sold that piece of property to Holderness and we wouldn't have these problems.
Is the thought that the $800,000 grant would cover all the costs, including buying the land and development?
So the grant itself would only be LWCF. The max you can ask for is $400,000, and we would have to match that dollar for dollar. So that's where it becomes an $800,000 project. When we did our intent letter, I just put in for the max, not knowing what the acquisition of the property was going to be. My guess is how this is going to work the cleanest is that the funding we receive from LWCF goes strictly to the acquisition, and then the development is the match funding that comes from the Trail Collective.
And I think our thoughts is to work our way south from Holderness Road. So initially, not worry about the stuff that's further south and in Ashland, but to really worry about the oxbow area itself and the access to the oxbow area itself.
Okay. So, what's your timeline and what?
I laugh when I get that question. If you worked with the Forest Service, you would know how ambiguous what your timeline question is. So we will be invited at some point in August to officially go through the grant process. I don't think the grant is actually going to be due until November-ish. I'm just looking at past, if you go on the state's website, that's the past history of the grant. So we would have to nail down the details of are Plymouth and Holderness going to be co-applicants of the grant, with the Trail Collective being the match. Are you going to work out something between the two of you? And then we would have to kind of narrow down our funding ask.
Okay. Well, so how quickly do we need to make a decision? I mean, if we were to say, yeah, that makes sense, let's gift or sell the property to Holderness so that it would be a singular.
That we'd have to start this fall during amendment season. This is a warrant article vote.
Okay.
Bill.
All right.
And one correspondent. Also, we just can't give it to Holderness. They're going to have to vote to accept it. So there would be 2 votes in each of the towns as far as the land transfer if it was just a, quit claim.
Right.
Essentially.
Somebody better have a discussion with Holderness then, because they don't want to take it.
Right.
Well, but
that's why I asked about ownership.
They have an agreement with, Steve as well, though, as far as like us also. I'm sure we would still be, asked to be like first responders for any kind of like police action or issues, right? Because we're a lot closer than Holderness.
No, actually, Holderness could get there a lot quicker than we could. Unless you want our guys crossing the river. Then we can get there pretty quickly.
Well, in the wintertime, we'll have you cross over the ice to the beach, right?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
So I think there's 2 things going on. There's 2 thoughts. One is that Plymouth gives this land to Holderness and it becomes a town of Holderness within the boundaries, or it to be within the boundaries of the town of Plymouth, but it's owned by the town of Holderness.
How's that?
Yeah.
Sounds ugly.
Own other towns.
And I don't think there's any problem on that, because I think, you can own property in another town. A town can own property in another town, and a town can actually spend money on property in another town. As I said, our thoughts are, from our perspective is at least to make an agreement with the Holderness School in terms of that property. I don't think the college is going to want to give up anything other than just actually allow for usage of that property. So my other thought would then be outright the purchase of the property from the Lakes Region Golf Country Club, whatever you call it. That 36 acres that you were pointing out the South Beach is on. And that can be, owned as a conservation easement with either Holderness as the owner of the easement, or Holderness and Plymouth, or not as an easement, but Holderness and Plymouth actually owning the property jointly. I don't know how that would work out, or Plymouth can own it.
Have you had a conversation with the country club to know what their interest level is in selling that property?
Chris Buckley dealt with this gentleman for a long time, and we had a tough time having him give us assessment. He finally did do an assessment, about 6 or 7 months ago. And as I say, that assessment was a little bit high. And I've talked with Roger LaRochelle, who is the director for Lakes Region, Squam Lakes Conservation Society, and he thought that assessment was awful high too. So I'm sure that when it gets down to dollars and donuts, he'll accept a lower price for that. We do have some money in the Holderness Conservation Fund that perhaps would allow us to buy the property from Holderness School. But again, as it was said, that we would have to have a warrant article to do that this coming March.
So that pretty much kills the whole timeline right there, though, right? If you want to deal with a single entity, we're not gonna be able to do anything until next March anyway, right?
Can the project run forward with this ownership or underlying municipality question being on the table?
I can,
Seems awful third party to me. I mean,
yeah,
that aspect of it.
I can make a call to Eric at the state and ask. It might just be that the two towns form kind of like an MOU, a memo of understanding of how this is going to work, knowing that those votes, those opportunities to vote on this will be coming forward. I can reach out to Eric and ask that question.
I know I really appreciate the help of Steve and Jake in terms of trying to control this property. It was actually not as big a problem until we actually got the Livermore Falls property underway with a state park there. And then of course people moved down from their underage drinking and overage drinking and partying from Livermore Falls down to the South Beach. So it's become a little bit more problem in the last couple of years than it was before.
Yeah.
The start date of the pre-proposal anyway wasn't going to be until I think it was May of 2021.
Right. Yeah, this is definitely a marathon. I'll email Eric tomorrow. I'll call him and find out what they're thinking date wise. Because none of the funding or anything would come through until 2022. So we're looking at like a year-long process with this. I will find out more deadlines. That seems like that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Would it be useful to have a joint meeting of the town of Holderness and Plymouth to discuss this? Or do you want to just handle it internally and then let Holderness decide what it wants to do?
Well,
Are you making the same proposal at the Holderness board?
We haven't talked to them yet. I mean, they're aware of what's going on, but we haven't talked to them per se.
Okay.
So will Melanie respond to Lisa with the answer as far as, joint ownership, and then Lisa, you can disseminate it out just to see if that's
the question that Melanie's going to ask is the timeline, right?
Yeah, and whether or not the March town meetings is going to hold it up. And I think I might be locked. But.
So I think when we initially discussed this, we weren't thinking that this was a warrant article issue, and I'm not sure I understand why it is.
If it's actually transferring ownership of the property, their jurisdiction rather, from one town to another.
But it doesn't have to be that. It could stay in the town.
No, and that's what I was trying to get at is ownership a real problem here? I mean, it seems to me that I mean, I understand that Holderness is very deeply involved in this, and that's great, but the idea of them assuming the property, I wanted to determine whether it matters who actually owns the underlying soil. I mean, can't say owner because we know it's a private entity. The jurisdiction of that property within the town boundaries, if it mattered whether it was in Holderness or Plymouth for the purposes of creating a conservation easement. And, yes, it's an easier lift if you're dealing with a single owner, but we already have, jurisdictional plus ownership issues anyway. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if the ownership issue was settled and the White Mountain Country Club was willing to sell it, affordably, then the next question would be, how best to administer it. And that's where it comes into, who's the jurisdiction and how we would want to do it. Or, do we even have to own the property at all? I mean, could White Mountain deed it directly to a conservation easement type person, have them own the easement instead of administering it like we do with the parcels here in Plymouth?
I think the restriction here, Melanie, you can, right now the grant has to come from a municipal agency. Because I had thought about the idea of maybe we set up a 501c3 called the Oxbow, the Oxbow Conservation Group or something like that. But they wouldn't be able to get this grant because it wouldn't be a municipality. So it's got to come through a municipality. So
Okay.
initially.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter which side of a boundary line you're on for the purposes of the easement. They just need somebody as a signatory
Right.
to get the process started.
Right. And even further along the way, it would be possibility to have a 501c3 after all this thing is done and gone. That would be sort of jointly administered the whole complex, so to speak.
To help manage it. Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah. The management aspect is
Yeah.
different than
Right.
the ownership management.
Right. Right. I will ask Eric all of those questions. I think what he's going to come back with, knowing Eric, he's just going to come back with in the grant. It just has to be very clear. And I think we can write it this way. It just would need to be very clear that this has been agreed upon by both towns. And that so basically the state doesn't want to get into towns not agreeing on things and have dispersed the funding, and all of a sudden that holds up the project because no one's agreeing on anything. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's what they want to avoid.
Yeah. They don't want to have challenges coming from
Right.
the other town.
Right. That's
So-
why I'm thinking it might even be like a memo of understanding between the towns could suffice. And I'll find out those answers, and I will I'll communicate that to Lisa so she can share that with you.
So, and we've always felt good because Holderness owns part of your wellhead protection site there on North River Street. So we try to treat that very well so that you guys have your well water pure.
Thank you, Larry.
Sounds like a threat.
So there is a possibility here that that this could become a very popular destination area. So the maintenance of the trails, but also the maintenance of the safety of the area could increase because we're the idea that the state's idea is that this isn't just the local population using this trail, but that it's actually a recreational draw to the area that then helps the economy of the towns and promotes the use of the land in a way that's serving a lot of public. So I think we have to think in the long view, like 10 years out, how much could these areas be used and what kind of infrastructure around there might develop.
And
also liabilities.
I think it needs to be brought out too, that we're looking at a sort of a larger picture too, because Lisa has mentioned that you're trying to develop a trail along the Baker River that would go from essentially the Baker River Bridge out to the new development with the motel, bank, and what have you complex. And of course, you realize that there's a connection there because we have a connection from River Street, South River Street, that would cross over the bridge and then go under the bridge and then take the railroad track or whatever you want to call it up to that Baker River Bridge. So there's a nice possibility of a nice trail system here that would sort of include both, the property there and then also the property out by your market basket and what have you. So a nice possibility for the future.
I would recommend, if that's a project that you were going to look into, I don't know if, I'm sure you have heard of it, but that would be a project that would qualify under the RTP grant through the state.
What grant?
It's called the RTP grant. It's the Rivers and Trails Protection Grant.
Okay.
The state, it's a yearly grant, but that project would qualify for that grant. I'm happy to help.
Great.
Well, the thing that we never thought that this would happen because Chris and I have been working trying to find a way to purchase those properties for a long time. And then the COVID thing happened, and now we know that those properties are really valuable because people need to get out of their houses. And of course, this combines, nature study and bird watching and dog walking and beach access and what have you. So it really is important, at this particular time because of the situation that we're in.
And I will say, to Lisa's comment about, further manage, looking at this, if we look at this as that infrastructure, if you look at trails the way we look at highway systems, right? We want to make sure when we build them or repair them or however with the use, we're also maintaining that use to keep them sustainable. We do, so my husband is the president of Pemi Valley NEMBA, which they already helped take care of some of that area, the gyroscope, and they would definitely be willing to continue and even expand the maintenance that they do. And then the other thing the Trail Collective did last year was we formed with Plymouth University, we formed the Plymouth Conservation Corps. So we help fund a trail crew, and usually we pull them for our projects in the summer, not this year because of COVID, unfortunately, but they worked last year on Crawford Path with us, but they would be available for maintenance because we're trying to make that a year-round Conservation Corps crew instead of just a seasonal crew. So we could also add some funding so that they would be able to help in perpetuity maintain this area as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, part of our mission is to realign stewardship. So stewardship, sustainable trails, protecting the legacy of the folks who built these systems and their historical value.
Very good. Any other?
Thank you for letting us outsider give a little bit of talk.
Thank you. This is my first select board meeting, so thank you for making it not too painful.
We were too kind.
You very much were.
Hey, Bill, do you mind if I jump in here for a sec?
Yeah, go for it.
Rebecca Hansen, I'm chair of the Plymouth Planning Board. I don't think I really necessarily need to say this, but I would like to just say that this project definitely aligns with a number of things in the master plan that was redone just a couple of years ago. Aligns with the vision, and then there's a whole section on recreation. A lot of it has to do with partnering with local other municipalities, university, to make sure that there are trails, there are recreation opportunities for visitors and residents. So all this definitely lines up with the vision that we set forth through a lot of town input in the master plan.
Thank you, Rebecca.
And with that, I'm going to disappear. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, that was very interesting, and I'm sure we'll be able to solve whatever we need to solve. So
yeah, I will talk to Eric this week and get Lisa some answers by the end of the week.
Very
That's
good.
easy enough to do.
And Lisa will share that with all of us.
I definitely will.
Okay.
Can I just ask one more? Who facilitates the conversations with the various entities? Us and Holdenitz. Who facilitates those conversations?
Like as in respect to this project?
Yes.
Well, yeah. So this was the Trail Collective. This is kind of people kind of ask this stuff all the time. People aren't really sure what to do with us just yet. So people bring projects to us, and we kind of go and we say like, yeah, we can do that project, or it's not sustainable. So the state is one of our partners, and the state started the conversation with us to say, do you know municipalities that would be interested in working with you guys? Could you be a match and help with some outdoor recreation projects? And I said, sure. And then I facilitated the conversation because I went to Slade Warner and Chris Buckley at the time and said, do you guys know of anything, any projects? We're going to be in the area during that timeline. And then they brought Larry and Lisa on, and then we just started talking. Sorry, my dog, the Thunder, freaking my dog out. Hold on one second. Okay, go. You're fine.
The one thing that's kind of handy, if it's awkward for the planning or for the select boards to have direct conversations with each other, the Conservation Commissions have been working together for a long time, and so, we could be kind of an intermediary if that's needed. But I think at some point you're going to want direct communications, especially of the police forces and both select boards, so that they just understand how that land might end up getting managed and used in the future.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else?
Interesting discussion.
Yeah.
Well, it's a very highly used area. I mean, we've used it for bird watching, for ecological studies, and then of
Okay.
course a lot of people walk their dogs and do other things like that there. And of course, in the wintertime, the snowmobilers and snowmobiles and cross-country skiers use it. And of course, a long time ago, Milt Huckins was out there in his hayfield mowing the hay. So it's been a vital area for the community.
I can remember going down there with Larry Cushman back in the
Very true.
60s.
Right, right.
What's that?
And if you go down to my Pemi at Riverside Park, you'll find little round tin aluminum markers on the trees because I had them all cored a long, long time ago. And it's been a long time since I've been back there, and some of the markers now are incorporated into the trees. So, well, thank you for being willing to hear us out, and thank you for Lisa for organizing this tonight, and thank you, Melanie, for being here.
Oh, a pleasure. Thank you.
So I'm going to leave.
Yep.
I think we all are.
Tyler.
Okay. Bye.
See you, Larry.
Bye, everyone.
Melanie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Thanks,
You're
Lisa.
welcome.
All right, so that pretty much concludes our list. Anything else from downtown there?
We're hungry, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I'm probably to gnaw my own arm off.
And we can't make the motion.
So someone shall make a motion. Who will?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, is there a
A
second?
second.
So Zach makes the motion. Marianne seconds. Any discussion? Vote. Neil.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Zach.
Aye.
Marianne.
Stop it.
Boy, hold out.
Bill. Aye. We got a majority.